Welcome back to another episode of Titans of Foodservice. I'm your host, Nick Portillo, and today I am lucky enough to have one of the most well-known and highly sought-after sales training experts in the country, Chris Jennings. Chris's journey kicked off at the age of 12, out knocking on doors to shovel snow and cut lawns. Now fast forward, and he's been recruited by Fortune 100 companies to develop and lead their teams internally. But here's where it gets interesting. He could not resist that entrepreneurial itch. Chris took that plunge. He started a couple of companies and have watched them grow by multiple millions. Now, I don't know about you, but that's what I call a success story. He's a true student of both business and life. He's on a mission to be useful. He's all about helping companies tackle the challenges of growing in a profitable manner. And get this, he's not just about the numbers. He's all about creating better conversations. He believes in those win-win relationships, and he's got the systems and processes to prove it. Now picture this, reducing the cost of customer acquisition, making the most of human capital, and all the while boosting employee engagement and company bottom lines. I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty sweet to me. But here's the real magic. Chris is not just a talker. He's noticeably passionate in his communication style. You will see that here today on our episode together. You'll feel it when he speaks, a commitment to service that extends to everyone he encounters. He also has a book out, Conversations Made Easy. You can find it on Audible or on Amazon, or you can go to his website, chrisjenningsgroup.com, to get more information. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome Chris. All right, Chris, welcome to the Titans of Foodservice podcast. I appreciate you taking time to come on and meet with me and talk about your story.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Glad to be here. Appreciate the invite.
Of course. So I like to start off with what I call the Fiery Five food service questions. So these are fun, just kind of icebreaker questions for those listening along. So the first one is, if you could have dinner with any person, alive or historical, who would it be and why?
I was going to say John Wooden, but I met John Wooden. I'd love to have had dinner with Kobe Bryant. I really wanted to get to know him better before he passed. The fire in the belly that man possessed, his dedication, even when he was accomplishing great things to do better. There was just a lot of qualities that he had that I admired, and I would have, and I don't live that far from him, and I thought I was planning on getting to know him, but man, life changes plans along the way. So yeah, Kobe Bryant.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. He was too young, him and his daughter.
Amen to that. Yeah.
If you had to choose one type of cuisine to eat for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, it would be salad. If that was it. I mean, I'm trying to live to 101. I'm 61, and I'd like to go another 40 years. So it'd have to be salad.
All right.
I put a lot of stuff in my salads, but so I got some leeway there. But yeah, be salad.
Sure. Okay. Do you prefer cooking at home or dining out?
I love them both. But I would say my wife and I consensus is to eat our food at home. But don't get me wrong, we are out often.
Sure.
So,
sure.
Yeah, that'd probably be my preference. So.
On the eating out front, if you could recommend one restaurant to somebody who does not live in Orange County and they only had 24 hours to be here, where would you recommend?
Easy peasy. The Drake, a little jazz club in Laguna Beach. Incredible atmosphere, limited menu, so everything that they serve is excellent, and it's got vibe like really no other restaurant in Orange County that I've been to. So hands down, the Drake.
Okay, the Drake it is.
Yeah, it's only going to make it hard depending on how many people listen. I don't know, it's going to make it harder to get into because you got to reserve in advance.
That's right. Yeah, and Laguna is it's kind of like a sleepy little, not a sleepy town, but it's a smaller town, and it's, an artsy place. It's a great place to go to visit. Yeah. And I know it's become more popular over the years.
Laguna is great. We live right up above Laguna. We're Laguna Niguel, so close by. Okay. And so we drop down to the Drake whenever we can, and it's always a fun time.
Nice.
Yeah.
After a celebratory moment or even a great day at work or just a great day in general, what is a go-to meal that you enjoy?
A celebratory go-to meal. Um, I celebratory. Okay. So that's because that sounds slightly different because my go-to meals tend to be like the leaner, cleaner, healthy things. But if
Yep.
it was a celebratory splurge meal, it's not even that splurgy. I love king crab, good
Yeah.
king crab legs with some nice sides. That's a celebratory meal for sure.
I've been over to Water Grill. I don't know if you've ever gone there. It's in Costa Mesa, and it's this massive restaurant, and they have, I think it's a king crab, or it's a type of king crab, and they have them there in a tank, and each one is like 8 to 10 pounds, and I've been able to hold one of
Really?
them before. They sell them for like $1,000 or 900
Oh
bucks a
wow.
pop.
Yeah.
But it's meant to feed many people.
Yeah, I've seen the lobsters in the tank, but I have not seen the king crab. So
Yep.
that sounds like a journey in and of itself.
Exactly. Exactly. I
Cool.
last time I was there, they said they sold like five or six in one night. So, it's that adds up.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, good for them. It's good business.
So, Chris, maybe a little background on yourself. Who are you? What is your business? Let's start there.
Yeah. So Chris Jennings, owner, founder of the Chris Jennings Group, 30 years coaching sales teams, business leaders, professionals that have to grow their business in some way, shape, or form, even if they're not necessarily see themselves in a sales role. And what I've been doing for the last 30 years is making that easier to do
Mhm.
than it would be. I think a lot of people get caught up in their head about what does that mean to sell. My opinion, it's just helping people fix problems that they couldn't have helped without you being around.
When
And
it,
we work with individual producers and leaders who lead teams,
yeah,
lead companies to help make that happen more regularly. So
nice. And
yeah.
and those that work with you, what are some of the deliverables or what are some of the expectations they have when working with you?
I'll think of a couple of assignments that
Yeah.
we started on now. I've got one. It's a professional services firm where they just want to, while they're talking to their clients, be able to get better at getting referrals and opening up the conversation of business development. We got a very successful video production firm that is growing great, but they want systems to help the growth, and in those systems coordinating the sales growth with the ability to deliver. And
Yeah.
so we work with a lot of project management teams and technical teams that are also customer facing and often a part of the growth. And then a lot of our clients come to us because they don't have a sales playbook, and we'll
Mm.
assemble a sales playbook. We'll make sure that one gets installed and that everybody that works in the company can follow it. We'll do that both in a written format and with video content to back it up. So that's what we do.
I'm sure you find a lot of companies, especially sales organizations, don't have a sales like a training manual or anything like that.
Yeah, I'd say for most companies, sales is kind of the wild, wild west of the
Right.
organization. They're pretty structured on their operations, their delivery, their accounting, their purchasing. When it comes to sales, like it gets mysterious, it gets murky. So we give it structure and process, and anything that you do that's got a system attached to it is going to function better. So we
Sure.
help put a system in place, and so you can move faster and get more done.
You mentioned that some companies come to you around, opening up conversations, creating referrals. Maybe any tips or tricks around that for those listening. Many of the people listening work for a food service distributor or manufacturer, broker. Sales uh, driven jobs.
Yeah, sure. So happy to help with that. So like I said, in our book that came out, Conversations Made Easy, which we
Yeah.
published, launched last year, there's a ton of tips and tricks in there. It's out on Audible too. So, the things that you're going to hear me today, if you want to pick it up on Audible, you certainly can. one of the biggest pieces of advice that I give people in talking to customers is don't change the way that you talk to customers. You should be talking to your prospects and your customers the same way, with the same tonality, the same intonation, the same relaxed nature that you would talk to one of your buddies, or somebody you live with, or somebody at the Starbucks. So maintaining a casual nature in how you interact with people, because if you alter the way that you talk to people because you want something out of them, it's not going to go as well. And you're not going to be your natural, most authentic and best self. I am huge on being very authentic, very real. The goal in sales, I often tell people, is to be the most relatable person that they've ever spoken to, not the most professional, not the smartest, not the, somebody who sounded like they had the best widget or whatever, because most people don't believe that or buy that anyways. In fact, you're probably doing more to distance yourself from your audience than you are to connect with them. And I'm huge on connection, right? And so what I look for is relatability. And there's a lot of tools, that we try to offer to get people to be more relatable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, call out your difficulties. So if you're calling on somebody brand new and you're showing up at a restaurant where you weren't invited, then you got to like call that out. You got to let them know. It's like, hey, I know you guys are busy, menu planning and probably about to run a team meeting. I'm going to be out of here fast. Right. And in fact, it's a bit of a long shot and I probably shouldn't have stopped here, but I thought on the off chance, that there was something I could do to help you that maybe adds to your menu one way or another, that I should at least stop by, tell you briefly what we're up to. I'll ask you a couple of quick questions. I'll let you decide if I should ever come back here or not. Does that sound okay to you? Right. So something like that's a lot more authentic, a lot more relatable, a lot more like easy on the ears for your customers. Than, hey, I just, want to drop off these samples and set some time to come see you. So I'm big on not doing the standard sales stuff. I'm big on being, like I said, authentic and relatable. Right? If you're authentic, real, and relatable, people are going to respond to that.
Yeah, absolutely. In my line of work, going that exact scenario of what you just described, of going into a kitchen and talking to a chef, having them stop what they're doing to meet with you.
Yeah.
A lot of times, yeah, you want to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, I'm only going to be here for a minute. Can I come back? I want to make sure that this works for you. Be a little bit more, not so in their face, trying to sell them something. Yeah, more relaxed. I really like that thought process.
Yeah, and what I find happens too is the more relaxed you are, you get your audience and your customers more relaxed. The more like on edge that you are, the more you put people on edge, and it makes them nervous and uncomfortable, which is why they want to shut down the conversation too quickly, and you're missing out, right?
That's right.
So, and there's a ton of, I guarantee for all of you listeners out there, there's a ton of customers out there that you've never even spoken to that could absolutely need your help. And they just have no idea that you exist. So I'm a big believer in continuing to prospect. Now, my favorite way to do business is through referrals and introductions. So you asked me a little bit about that.
That's right.
And I can talk about that a little bit. I'm huge on referrals. If you're not asking your customers for a referral or introduction at least 80% of the time, you're probably not, you're selling yourself short and you're not getting introduced to other people. Now, people give me all kinds of pushback on why they don't ask. And first of all, most people wait too long. I think you got to tell people in the beginning, as soon as they've hired you, right out of the gate, just let them know, hey, you're going to see me work really hard to do a great job for you. I know you don't know me very well, but down the road, I'm hoping you get super comfortable with what we're doing so that you're pointing me out to other chefs and buddies of yours that are in the business that could use a hand. And I'm going to count on you for that if you're open to it. Right. And you can put that out there day one, where they just hired you, they just placed their first order. Plant the seed early. If it's important to you, let them know. I think, customers are partners. And it's a partnership. It's not, I think way too many people put their customers up on pedestals and they're trying to be a better, server of their customer. And it's really in any kind of B2B relationship, it's a full on partnership. and the customers got to contribute. We got to contribute. And one of the ways your customers contribute is they introduce you to other people. You got to let them know that out of the gate, right?
Very smart. I've done that actually here on this podcast. Actually, going back to what you were saying about just being yourself and being relaxed. When I first started the podcast a year ago, I was mentioning to you before we started that we've done about 50, 52 episodes at this point, one a week. I was very performative. I wasn't necessarily my comfortable self. I was a little bit more robotic, and people that helped me start this, they're like, just episode 1 versus episode 30 are going to sound a heck of a lot different. And they really do. It seems, I believe it's more relaxed. It's more of a casual conversation, which is good.
Great. Yeah. And listen, we put a lot of time and energy into our work.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're walking around like tiptoeing on eggshells every time you talk to a new customer, every time you ask for a referral, every time you tell a customer that, there's going to be a price increase, man, you're spending a lot of your time on this planet stressed.
Mm-hmm.
And, life's too short. So I was coaching somebody earlier today who was telling me about their, anxiety around, impressing certain people who are in on their meetings. I'm like, you don't really need to, there's nobody you got to impress. You just need to be you and bring your best to the table. Now, how you run your sales calls, we could get into that depending on time. So,
yeah. What about in terms of what happens a lot too in our industry is maybe we're making a presentation to a distributor sales force, and maybe at any one time, maybe you're talking to 20 people. And there's anxiety and fear really around public speaking. How do you help your clients in terms of that realm?
Well, like I said, so I do a lot of public speaking, and I talk to a group the same way I'm talking to you right now, the same way I would talk to, somebody who's doing work at my house. Mm-hmm. Right. So I never change the person that I am in any setting. And I have one authentic self. And I find if you bring that to the table, that's going to help you. The other thing I do before I speak anywhere publicly, I say a little prayer to myself. And I ask to be of maximum service to the audience that I'm about to be in front of, and to be as helpful as I can to the group that I'm about to be in front of. And I find, that does a couple things. Like it sets my intention, and I'm only there to help. And I said that earlier, sales is helping people fix problems that they couldn't have fixed without you. So if you're in front of a distributor team and you have a product line, or you have a menu suggestion or a strategy that you want to suggest, like, as long as you know that their environment well enough, you're going to be able to deliver some really meaningful, helpful suggestions. Mm-hmm. Now, if you don't know that team very well, or that environment, or it's like your first time in front of a group like that, I'm going to recommend you spend the first, and maybe regardless, the first few minutes asking questions of that audience before you jump into your pitch, which I'm really big on asking questions. So,
yeah. When it comes to the sales process, is there a part that's more important than the other, from the referral all the way to the close?
The whole interaction matters. I feel like, what's happening in a sales environment, from the moment somebody meets you, they're making judgments about you, right? You're being judged, like it or not, you're being judged. Okay. And from how you introduced yourself to, what you wore, how you sat, what your background was, like, you're being judged all the way through. And as people go, like, they're either feeling like, hey, this person is making me more comfortable and confident working with them, or less comfortable and less confident working with them. Now, the biggest thing that I'll tell you, the biggest thing that most salespeople that I've ever worked with don't do, that would help them the most,
here we go,
okay, is they don't record their calls. and they don't listen to them back. Like, so if you're on a Zoom meeting and you got a recording of that, you should watch it. If you were on a phone call with somebody and you recorded it, you should listen to it. And if it didn't go the way you want it, like, this is what we tell our clients, is like, record your calls and then send us a copy. Right. You send us recorded calls. And one of my favorite things to do is to listen to other people's sales calls, because sometimes when you're in the middle of the call, you're just a little bit like, you're too in your head about what's going to happen, and it changes how you interact. So being able to listen to it after the fact, or getting feedback from myself or somebody on our team. I got a team of partners that are all great at listening to these calls, and every time we listen to somebody's sales calls, we always find a bunch of stuff that they could do differently. And this is what I like to tell people. If you haven't done it because you're uncomfortable, I was like, well, first of all, if you're uncomfortable, just imagine, how you might be making your customers uncomfortable.
That's right.
But if there's a mistake that you're making, okay, how long do you want to make that mistake before somebody points it out to you? Call after call, meeting after meeting, and there's something you're doing or could be doing differently that you're not even aware of at all. I mean, I think that's why a lot of salespeople underperform versus their potential. I think most people could double their income, and most of the places I've been to.
Yeah. What if you're inside the kitchen? You're visiting with the chef. Is there a way to record yourself there, or is there an appropriate way to ask? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're in the kitchen visiting a chef, you definitely can. What I would say to that chef is like, hey, Chef Nick, we're going to cover a lot of details today. It's going to be moving fast. I don't want to miss any details. Would you be cool if I record the conversation just so I have it as a reference point for later? Right. And if you said that to the chef you're meeting with, and you just pulled out your phone and just have, turn on your voice recorder, and boom, there you go. You're going to record the whole thing. And you're going to have a lot of great stuff to come back to. And most of your audiences are going to go, really, thanks for being so detail oriented.
Sure.
Right? That's what I would do.
That's smart.
Yeah.
What about when it comes to the close? What are maybe some pitfalls that you see from working with your clients? What are some of the areas that they struggle with on that?
So I'm a huge believer in tracking your conversion rates. If you should know what your conversion rate is from, lead to meeting, from meeting to proposal, and proposal to converted client. Okay, proposal or demo. And you really should have statistics on that, so you can judge, whether you're going up or you're going down. Because the longer in your career, like, down the road, maybe in the beginning, if you're converting 10, 15, 20, 30% of the time, okay, I'll live with all those numbers. But down the road, as you get busier, like, you need to be converting wins, 50, 60, 70, 80% of the time. Right. And so I'm big on conversion rate. And if I was to look, and I've never met somebody who we couldn't increase their conversion rate by 10 points. Never. My entire time I've been doing this. So if you're a 50-point conversion, I know we can get you to 60. If you're 30, I know you can go to 40, et cetera. And there's if the thing that the breakdown is probably you didn't ask enough of the right questions to find what's going to drive them to make a change.
Okay.
If there's something wrong in the questions that you're asking, you're rushing and not getting there fast enough because people are busy, and they said, oh, I only have 5 minutes. So, or whatever they said. And so you were rushing, or C, there's somebody else that is really looped in the process. So the chef doesn't have full license to do whatever they want in the kitchen. They still got to get sign off from, somebody in purchasing, or, the owners always want to weigh in. If there's somebody who is probably getting in the way that maybe we don't have access to. So it's usually one of those three. You're rushing, you're not asking the right question, or you're not getting, there's somebody missing that should be involved in the conversation. That's probably it.
Around the question, asking questions, that's a tough part. It requires active listening and, really understanding your customer. How do you help your your clients with asking better questions?
Yeah. Great question. The number one, you got to care, right? You have to be like, you got to enjoy going into a restaurant, and you got to really care about and be curious about, like, hey, what's it like for that chef? If they put a meal on the menu and nobody buys it, like, or what's it like for them when they send out a dish that gets sent back, or that the wait staff doesn't like to wait because it takes longer. Like, I really want to know what's it like for them in their business. So if you have I always felt like if you have a genuine curiosity on the customers you call on and a genuine interest in the business, you're going to get there. The other thing I'll tell you is, don't be so focused on just the product. So let's just say you got a tomato sauce line you're repping, and talking just about the tomato sauce that you use, versus, like, I want to know big picture. How does that impact the overall menu? How does that impact, like, the sous chef prepping stuff for you? What is that like, for the wine pairings at the table? Like, there's so many other things that matter beyond the one problem. And I think people get a little narrowly focused on one issue, and they don't broaden the conversation. And I think they largely don't broaden it either because they're not as interested, or they're running out of time. And we got a lot of people who are running out of time because, people are busy, right? Chefs,
Yes.
they're busy.
Yeah, I see a lot of people, they really focus on the features of the product itself, without, I
Yeah.
like that, looking at the holistically, what is the whole picture? How can this benefit
Yeah.
someone's operation?
Yeah. Someone's operation, somebody's career. Like, you got to go, much bigger picture. And I think that'll help a lot. The other thing I was going to say is, I got a client I work with, a big, seafood distribution firm. And so he and I were talking one day, as now the president of the firm, which, by the way, this guy, I love this guy. He started out as a driver. He became a salesperson, became a sales manager, became VP of sales, became the president of the company. Okay. So God bless this guy. And I tell you his name, I didn't get his permission. So I'll get his permission. I can come on again if you want.
Yeah.
But in any event, like, when he and I were talking one day, he goes, my sales team, like, they never get invited to look inside the freezer. Like, they don't. But my drivers, they look in the freezer. They get in, they're let into the back. And my sales team misses out a lot. So we spent a lot of time figuring out, how do you get what we call special teams players? How do you get your special teams players, your drivers, your chefs or food scientists or whatever you got? How do you get that group involved in the overall sales process to increase your touch and reach inside of an account? And I think if you're trying to do it all on your own, and you're not getting your special teams players involved, and you haven't gotten that's a big part of putting your playbook together, is what's your role? If you're the lead salesperson, you're the quarterback, but who's blocking for me, who's tackling, who's getting me the ball back, all that matters.
Yeah, that makes sense. That really makes sense. Tell me about your book, Conversations Made Easy. What can someone expect from reading that?
So, like the title says, and my favorite thing to do in my career has always been to make tough conversations easier for people to have. So if it's a price increase, like, you're coming in with a new product that costs more than the competitive product, like, that's, so how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
And we have a lot of what you're going to find in there is, we're going to give you a conversation model to follow, so you can work within your authentic self, and it'll turn into great conversations. We'll give you some ideas of how to structure your week so that you get more productive. So as a personal producer, there's a ton in there. And if you're leading a team, there's a lot of ideas on how to build the skills of our team. We're never finished in this life. We're always getting better. I'm always learning. So, if you're a professional salesperson and you're 10 years into your career, I want you to think about, how do I sell twice as much or 3 times as much as I do today and work the same amount or even less than I do today. And the way you get there is you get better at some part of your process, and you become a student of the game. So there's a whole bunch of questions in there. There's drills and exercises. There's goal setting. It's I try to get A to Z everything that a salesperson or sales leader would need, all inside of about 200 pages. If you listen to it on Audible, you got 5 hours and 55 minutes. So I came in under my 6 hour target, and you can gives you something to do while you're out there driving.
I've always wondered, because I've listened to a lot of books on Audible. When you sit there and record for 6 hours, I mean, I'd imagine you have to take breaks, or you just do it all at once.
Yeah. No, dude. It was a real God shot for me. I almost didn't record it myself. I had a professional narrator picked out. This guy's name is Axe Norman. He sounded really cool, and I liked his name, right?
Yeah.
And then in the middle of the whole thing, the people I was working with, like financially, the company collapsed. And so I took it as a sign from God that I was supposed to record this thing myself.
Yeah.
So I found a producer. And basically how it works is we probably had about 14 to maybe 18 hours of scheduled recording time, of which some of it blew up because there was background noise or this happened. But we did it in 2-hour blocks, about eight 2-hour blocks. And we ended up with 5 hours and 55 minutes of what I hope you'll find to be really good content, and including some interviews where I got to, point people to our website, which I would say, go to our website, chrisjenningsgroup.com. We got a lot of, free resources. There's some free programs you can sit in. There's stuff you can pay for if you want. You can engage one of our coaches, but certainly there's a ton of resources for anybody at chrisjenningsgroup.com. Check it out. The book's there too, or, find it on Amazon or on Audible.
Fantastic. Chris, You're the man. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. This was great. I am absolutely going to buy your book. So thank you.
Yeah, Nick, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate spending the time with you. It's good to see you. Good to talk to you. I mean, if you and your listeners haven't noticed, I'm passionate about the topic.
Yeah.
Right. I've been doing this for a long time, man. And really people coming back to me and go, hey, because of you, I doubled my income. That makes my day. So if I can help, hopefully I'll help some of your listeners, do a little bit better in their career, and, reserve some time for them to, spend time with the families and the people that are most important to them. I'm not like, you got to work yourself to the bone kind of guy to be successful. Yeah. You just got to work smarter all the time. And that I'm much more into that. So.
Fantastic. Chris, again, thank you so much.
Nick, it was a blast. I'm happy to do it again. Thanks for inviting me. Guys, have a great day out there.
Thanks, Chris.